Hello TypeScript fans! Today I want to show you the tsExpect error pragma. And this pragma can be used in your test code to simplify writing test fixtures and mocks, because most of the times when you want to test a function, you want to also write the test code very quick and save yourself some time. And this you can do by using the tsExpect error pragma. Let me introduce you to a code that I've written here for this demo. So there is a get function, get name function, and in this function I am having a user, and the user is of type object, and that object here has an age property and a name property, and the function simply returns the name of that object. So all we are needing here is the name. That's everything we need, and that's why I want to write test code that only supplies the name. So let me open the test code. First of all, let's reveal that a file here in my Explorer view, and then I have the test file co-located. So when I have the test file co-located, I will also put it here side by side, so you can follow me along the way. Here I'm testing the getName function. So the idea is that I have a user, and that user is an object, and that I then call getName with that very object, and then I get the name returned, and then I expect the name to be something, yeah. And now I want to be very lean. I need to supply a user with all the properties, yeah. I need to supply a user that has an age property and a name property, but I know that just the name is being used in here. So I just want to write an object that only has a name. But then TypeScript will still complain because it wants me also to add the property age. I can quickly solve that by supplying the age, and the test code will be good. But imagine you have a big object with a lot of properties, nested properties. Then this can become quite a task to build up such objects. So the easiest and simplest way is really to keep the object as minimal as possible, but then we will see this error here. So this is actually where the tsExpect error pragma comes in, because I can simply write here add tsExpect error, because that will tell the compiler to expect an error in this line, which is happening right now. And then the error is being suppressed, so I can supply a user that doesn't have all the properties. And then I, of course, need to write a valid test case, so I expect it to be the user name that is being returned here. And let me check the test code here. If I open source, get name, and if I run it, then test runs fine, and there is no error here, and I also don't have to specify all the properties of the user. There is actually now also another pragma, which is tsIgnore. So that is probably what you have heard of. Yeah, you can just remove this, you will get an error, and you can tell the TypeScript compiler to ignore this error by using the pragma tsIgnore. Yeah, that works fine as well. And the question is now, okay, where's the difference between tsIgnore and tsExpect error? There is a big difference in the behavior. So, for example, if you have tsIgnore, errors here in the next line will be ignored. And if actually it is not an error anymore, it won't show up. Let me show you that. For example, let's say I then decided to put an age property here, and the code will still look fine. Yeah, the tsIgnore pragma won't flag anything because it's just being ignored, and it doesn't care that your code is not correct. And that's the difference to tsExpect error. Because if you have here tsExpect error, then this will flag you now a problem, because it's expecting an error, but there is no error anymore as I have completed the missing, or if I have filled in the missing properties. So now there is no valid error anymore. And then it's failing. Yeah, so I can remove this line completely. And I think this is quite handy, yeah, because with tsIgnore, I would still have the comment in here, and I wouldn't realize as a programmer that there is no error anymore, that it has been fixed. Yeah, but with TS-expect error, I get to know, okay, there is no more error. If I build the error again, yeah, if I make it erroneous again, then of course that is fine. There is also a very nice documentation about TS-expect error on the TypeScript release notes. Here we can see when to use it, and the TypeScript team actually says that you should use TS-expect error when you're writing test code. So that's the case that we've just seen. Yeah, when we want to pass to a function something that is invalid because we want to test the function, we want to test that the function then rejects or throws an error or like doesn't go into like undefined states. So in these cases, we actually in our test case really want to push invalid stuff to it and to tell TypeScript compiler, hey, we know what we are doing here. We really want to go off the route. Yeah, then we can use TS-expect error. It also says that here you should use it when you expect a fix to come. So when you're writing code and you say, oh, this here will fix in the future, maybe with the next TypeScript version or whatever, then you can also mark it and give context to other programmers by putting this TS-expect error pragma. Although I find it best to really stick to it for writing test code. In all other cases, I would use TS-ignore. The TypeScript team also says that you should use it when you don't have time to also distinguish which option is better. Yeah, so they really write here, honestly, if you don't have the time to decide which of these options is better, then use TS-ignore. So TS-ignore is the default that you can go to. Although, of course, you should really try to avoid TS-ignore. I think TS-ignore mostly makes sense when you have a legacy JavaScript project that you want to migrate to TypeScript code. And then, of course, you may have time constraints, business constraints that need you to move fast. And in this case, then you probably have some things where you don't have the proper types yet because you still have JavaScript legacy code base. And then you can mark these errors then that occur with TS-ignore to move forward with other migrations of the projects. This is where I would use TS-ignore then, yeah, in a transition state from moving a code base from JavaScript to TypeScript. There's also another case where TS-ignore makes sense. And this case I will show you with another project of mine. Here is a project where I'm working with snapshot files. So I built a tool called TS2ESM, which converts legacy import and export statements, mostly from CommonJS projects, into ECMAScript compatible import and export statements. And to test my code, I built some snapshots. So I created snapshots how the code that is being transformed should look in the end. And this we can see here on the right. And on the left is the original code. So this code is being taken and transformed into the code here that you see on the right. And in this case, we see that, for example, here is no index.js extension, which is then added by my tool and then makes it look like this to follow the necessary extensions that you need in your imports when using ECMAScript modules. Long story, let's make it short. The code that I give to my tool is problematic. It has bugs, and my tool converts it to code that doesn't have bugs. But my tool just converts the code and leaves everything as is. So every comment in here will be kept. And if I remove, for example, this comment, then I get to see an error, yeah, because it tells me, hey, you missed the extension. That's actually what my tool does. It adds these extensions, yeah, this extension here. And ideally, I would, in my test code, mark it with, okay, TS expect error. Yeah, this error is expected because that's the input code. And then my tool converts it and turns it into this. But if I use TS expect error, then my tool will also keep this TS expect error comment. And since it corrects the error, there is no more error. So then this comment will tell me actually, or will tell the TypeScript compiler, hey, there is an expected error, but the TypeScript compiler doesn't see an error and throws then an error because the expected error is not found. Yeah, and this is where actually I then switched to TS-ignore to not have that issue then in the fixed snapshot. As a bonus, I want to show you some more tricks how you can write better test code. We have seen that we can use TS-expect error in here to then like use very minimal input samples here. And this is quite cool and also problematic because you would have then these pragmas idling around, and what if the user is then being fully fledged, so with all the properties, yeah, then you need to go and remove these comments and so on and so forth. Can be quite cumbersome. That's why I usually tend to use type assertions in my test code. Yeah, not in my real code. There I try to avoid it, but in my test code, I'm using often type assertions. So what I would do in that case is I would create a new type, not const, but type user. And then I would give it the properties from this user here. And then I will reuse it in here and also export the type so it can be used in the test code. And then in the test code, I would do the following. I would use a type assertion here and say that this here is a user type. Then I'm overwriting the compiler's decision. Yeah, the compiler will detect, okay, there are some missing properties. So type inference, I would say, hey, the age is missing, but I'm then asserting that user constant to the type of user. I just need the user as a type, so I can also use the type keyword in here, and then that will also fix the problem for me. An even better solution to solve the testing issue is solving the problem at the application code level. As a programmer, we already know that the getName function will just need the name of the user. So we could signal that by using the pick utility type. With pick, we can say we want to only have one property of the user, or multiple. We can specify them. We can list the set of properties that we want to use. And in our case, we just want to use the name. So I just pick from the user the name. And then in my test code, I don't need to have a fully specified user. Yeah, I can now just have a user that has a name, because that will fulfill the contract of this type here. And then I don't need to have type assertions, and I will have much cleaner code. Yeah, I could then really just take this here, put it in here, and have it as simple as that, without even having to import the user type. If you want to be really nice to your coworkers, then you can also make use of import attributes. This will allow you to share common test setups. So for example, if I want to share here this user object with other test files, then I can do that by outsourcing it into a JSON file. So let me simply do that. I will use that object here, and then I will co-locate it in a JSON file. So I will go into the Explorer view, create a new file here. I will call it user benny.json. And in here, I will put my properties. I will make sure that it follows JSON syntax. So I will also remove here the trailing colon. And then I can import that file in TypeScript. This is possible in later TypeScript versions. So you need to have at least TypeScript version 5.3. And if that is given, then you can go into your test case and you can make use of import attributes. So you can import using a default import, and I will just call my default import Benny. And then I give it the path to my JSON file, which was user Benny.json. And then I declare an import attribute by using the with keyword and then specifying a type. My type in here will be JSON. And when this is done, then I have Benny here available as a constant, so I can pass it on to the function. The cool thing about import attributes is that TypeScript can resolve them, meaning that you get auto-completion. So if I, for example, here call Benny, I can see the properties. And in our current case, there's just a name property. But if I would go here and add also an age, then I will also see that in IntelliSense. So if I check again, I will see the age property. And that makes it very, very powerful. And the nice thing about it is that you can now declare a full-blown user object. Yeah, let's say you have some nested properties. User, for example, then has friends. You can specify the friends in here and so on and so forth. So you can make one big complete object and then reuse it in your test files. Then it wouldn't be so difficult to set up each time a user in your tests, which takes time. So in this case, then you won't need to make shortcuts by using this TS-expect error pragma or using type assertions and so on and so forth, because you will always have a fully typed and proper user object. Okay, this is possible with TypeScript 5.3. And to also be aware, you need to have a TypeScript configuration that allows to import JSON files. You can double check that. So if you open your tsconfig JSON file, make sure that resolve JSON module is set to true. And this will then allow you to import JSON files in TypeScript. Great. I think I've shown many strategies on how to simplify writing test code, and in this case fixtures for your tests. And this will hopefully give you new inspirations for your own tests. Have fun!